Sunshine. 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 Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We are getting sunshine today for the first time in 3 weeks. The sun is just clearing the pine tree outside, so soon I'll have full sun in the greenhouse here. So that'll be nice, it'll warm it up. We have really cold weather outside. You can see the cool frost patterns on the glass of the greenhouse. At the moment, it is 7 degrees Celsius in the greenhouse and minus 4 degrees Celsius outside, or in Fahrenheit, 44 degrees in the greenhouse and 24 degrees outside. It is quite cool in the greenhouse here, so I'm going to try and pick something to work on today that won't take a lot of time. Those forests I did in the last few videos, I was out in the greenhouse here for a long time and it was very cold. So I'm going to pick something today that I can prune up and not spend hours out here in the cold greenhouse. I'm looking around the greenhouse here and I do have my boxwoods that need pruning up here. I've got my small pot full here, and down below I have the seed tray with the larger boxwood and some of the smaller ones surrounding it. I think that'll take quite a while to prune up. So I was thinking instead, if we come over here, I've got my Black Willow here. You can see all the long shoots on it from last summer. So I think that's a good candidate to prune up today. I think it'll look quite nice. So I'll get that on the turntable. In the past, I've had a weeping willow that started to develop really nicely, and then it started losing vigor and it eventually weakened and died off. So I was kind of reluctant to start more willows after that experience. But then thinking back on it, I think I know the reason that it died off. A willow tree in nature generally grows near a water supply. They love water in the summer. They take up enormous amounts of water to keep the leaves cool and the tree cool. So I've always grown them with a tray of water underneath. So the tree is always constantly fed with water and fertilizer, and the trees grow really well in the summer with that method. I think my problem was overwintering the trees. In the basement, I didn't keep a close enough eye on the roots, and I think they may have dried out or got frozen in the basement. And I kept the tray of water under it, so I think the roots may have gotten waterlogged in the winter. So I think the technique, I've been keeping this tray dry over the winter, just kind of watering the tree. In the greenhouse here, it's kept generally above freezing. It's a good overwintering place here, and I'm really keeping my eye on it. So I'm not letting the soil dry out. I'm not letting it freeze, and the roots aren't waterlogged. And I think that's going to be a successful strategy for growing willows in the future. This tree is a Black Willow. I collected a cutting from the backyard. There's some Black Willows growing there, and I planted it, and it suffered a lot of dieback initially. You can see the main trunk line died back. There's a lot of dead sections on the trunk. I think that's dead. But a lot of it survived and recovered once the roots got established. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 good trunks growing on the tree. So today I'm going to give this tree a good cleanup. You can see it needs weeding. I need to remove the moss from the base of the tree. I'll have a look at some of these rotted sections, see what's happening. Now, a lot of the times on willows, they grow roots really easily. So if you get a rotted section on the trunk, the roots from the living part will grow into that rotted section, filling it with roots. And it once those roots start to thicken up, it gives an awesome appearance on the willows, the full-size willows you see growing near waterways. It's a cool look, and it's kind of specific to the willow tree. So what I'm hoping in this dead rotted section of the trunk, I have roots from the living parts growing through this rotted section, and eventually they'll thicken up and take over, and I'll have this really cool looking trunk on the willow. Black willows are a little different from a weeping willow. The general structure of the tree is more upright, or more like a typical deciduous type tree, an upright structure. They also get a rougher bark on them. They get a really nice rough bark on the mature trees. So there's a couple of good characteristics to look forward to as this tree gets older. The wood on a willow is very soft, so dead wood doesn't last long. So all these pieces of dead wood, I'm just going to leave them. I don't want to touch them. I don't want to disturb any roots if they are growing in the dead parts of the tree. So I'm just going to leave the dead wood on for now, but I will be pruning the tree and cleaning up the landscape. I'm going to begin the pruning of the tree now. So I'll be shortening everything back, and I may do some reduction on these straight trunks here. Maybe picking a new leader. I think that would be wise, so they're not, so stiff and straight looking. I also may have to reduce the number of these major trunks. There's quite a few growing from one spot. So I'm going to begin. I've got a branch down low, which is a nice branch. I'm going to keep it for now. But I will prune it back shorter, so I'll prune it back to here. And I prune it back to a downward facing bud. I'll do the same here, shortening it. On this trunk, which is alive, I've got lots of good growth out here. I have a lot of dead bits, so I don't need my dead parts of that branch, so I'll prune that off, because that is not part of the dead wood that roots will grow in. So I'll just prune it off. That branch there. I have the upper part of this branch is dead. Like that. I've got a dead stub here. And I have a dead stub up top here. So right here. So that removes a lot of the dead wood off of that branch or trunk line. Now I'll reduce everything back, so I'm looking for buds again. Just pruning everything back shorter. That way I'll get taper and ramification and movement in these branches. They won't be long and straight. And the top of this is dead. So I'll take that off too. Okay, so that's got that trunk line pruned up. Now, I haven't decided, what I'm keeping and what I'm taking off yet, so that'll come in the future. I do have a new trunk growing in between these two ones, and I don't think I want that. I've got enough with these three trunks, so this one's definitely coming out. So here I go. Hard to get in here, but there. So that branch is removed. And then I'll come, there's another dead one down at the bottom here. I can take this one off. There's a dead one out the back here. I can remove that. Again, you know, there's no roots growing into these branches, so I can prune them off. Now, so I'm going to prune all these branches back, making them more compact. That one's dead. On the top of this branch, I have a dead stub that I can prune back. Like that. And there's some dead branches here. I'll take this back. So that's got that trunk line pruned up. So now I just have the one growing up the middle here. So I'm going to keep all my branching for the moment. Take the dead top off. There's some dead branches here I can take off. I have a dead stub on the top of this branch I can remove. Like that. And a dead branch here, a dead top here, and I'll cut this back. I'll cut this one back even further. I'll cut this one back. This one, and that one. And that one. And there's a dead top here. And this is dead there. So now I've got everything on here is living except for this one trunk off the side here, which I'm not going to remove yet. I'm hoping it just rots away naturally. But everything else is being pruned back, more compact. So now I've got to look at the overall styling. I think it's hard to say where the front of this tree is because of this is in the way. You know, somewhere here might be a good view. And it may depend on what roots I get growing into the rotted part of the tree. Yeah, there's a lot of factors. I think it's too early in this tree's history to decide on the front yet. As for the 3 trunks growing here, that is a good question. Do I need 3 trunks or would it be better to divide from 1 to 2? That's a tough question. Generally on bonsai you always divide from 1 to 2. You're always bifurcating. If you have 3 you tend to get bulges. And we don't want bulges on our trees. We want them to kind of taper from thick to thin as they go up, if possible. So, this one branch here is a very good flow line with the trunk. It just kind of continues growing. I couldn't take out the middle one because then I'd have too wide a Y on it. It would look like a slingshot. So I've got to either pick, you know, if I'm dividing it from 1 to 2, I've either got to pick these 2 branches or these 2. If I take this one off, I've got I'm initiating some movement in the tree. If I take this one off, it's a little bit straighter. It's not straight, it's slanted the trunk and then it divides. My initial thought is to remove this one off to the side here. But that might be the one that's growing roots down in this rotted section. This trunk's the oldest over here, but it's also the... If I take it off, I kind of get a bulge here coming up to this trunk. So I think I've got to keep that one. which means I'd have to prune this one off. Now it is possible to keep all three also. Or leave the decision till later on, which is never a good idea, but it might be a good idea in this case because I'm not sure what's going on with the base of the tree yet. That might take a few years. So, boy oh boy. Do I do it now? Do I pick? I think I do. I think I've got to get rid of the old one here. Which also kind of makes sense because it grows, it's this long without any branching. Now, branches could sprout here. If I cut it off, I might get, new branches coming from it. But these ones definitely have branches down lower. Now, I do kind of want to reduce the height of the tree. So if you took that one off, I think the tree looks fine. All right, that's the one that's coming off. I think I could take, either off, this one or this one, and I think the tree would look fine 5 years down the road. But for now, I'm taking this one off. Dividing from 1 to 2. Big cut coming up. Here I go. So a little bit at the bottom here. There. That is done. Now if you look at my shadow in the background there, it kind of looks like the tree. Has that upright broom style. So there is the tree. I've reduced it to dividing from 1 to 2, and I'm going to get rid of this one out the back. Now I think I can break it off. Possibly. I'm going to try. Here I go. So I'll grab it and kind of... Oh yeah, it broke really, really easily. It was almost ready. You can see that one's ready to come off too. I'll just break it off too. Okay. So the rest of the dead wood I'll leave there. You can see I'm starting to get some nice bark here on the tree. There's been some wounds here where I've taken some branches off in the past. Kind of look like eyes or something. But that'll heal. So yeah, there. That's a nice front view of the tree there. That could look quite nice as the front. Maybe this view in the future too. Somewhere in here. Looks good. So there's a lot of possibilities. The next thing I want to do is I want to reduce the height of these two trunks a bit. They're just too straight and going too high. So there's a look at those two branches. So here, I could cut it off here and use this as the leader, like that. I could even go way back if I wanted, and back to here, which I think would look good. I've got another branch out the back here. This is the thicker trunk, so it could be taller. I don't know. I think I need to go at least to here, and even then, this section's quite straight. I think I'd better go back to this one. So I'll prune it off. Here I go. A big cut coming up. I'm going to come in here. All right, here I go. Just like that. So you can see I'm dividing from 1 to 2 now. And then this one, I don't have anything in this area. If I divide back to here, I still got a big straight section. If I go way back, it's a possibility. Or let me see. Tough decision. You know, I've got possibly a bud here. I could maybe prune it halfway and see what happens. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, here I go. I'm going to prune it halfway through this straight section. Find my bud on the back there. Yeah, right about here. All right, off with the top of the tree. Big cut coming up. Here I go. Just like that. Now, I think I'm going to reduce this branch back a bit too. And this one. And this one. And I think that is one good-looking willow stump. Let's fly in now, and I'll show you what the stump is looking like. So here it is. So you can see I've gotten rid of all those straight sections on the trunks. I've got it dividing from 1 into 2 where possible. Interesting. So next I'm going to clean up the landscape. Before I begin work on the landscape, I think I should seal up all these cuts too. Maybe that'll make a difference on the willows too. It might help stop the branches drying out and dying back. We will see. We'll see if this seems to be successful or not. I've never used cut paste on a willow before, but I'm sure it'll do a good job. It'll certainly stop the branches from drying back, I think. And I'll put some on this wound too. That was a big wound. I'll put some on this wound. And I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well that is all sealed up. Wait, I forgot that little one in the middle here. There, that's sealed up too. I do want to repot this tree in spring. It's been in this pot for a few years and I would like to get to the root base and work on it. But I'm going to give it a good clean up today. Get rid of all this debris, and there's all kinds of weeds in here. So I've got my tweezers and I'll try and dig some of these weeds out. There. Now normally I'd pick all the moss off the trunk, but in this case it's my nursery log. I'm trying to grow roots in there, so I'll leave all the moss on there, keep the moisture in there, hopefully grow roots in there. There's a lot of this Scotch moss growing on the surface, which about the only way to get rid of that is a total repot using new soil. When it gets this thick, it's almost impossible to pick out. Like, you can pick it out, but all the roots are still in the soil and it just grows back. So you need to change the soil out. Okay, I think that's looking reasonable. Let's lift it out of the pot here. Have a look. Yeah, you can see there's a mat of roots growing here. I'll just cut those away. There. And I'll clean the tray out. I'll get all this cleaned up, just so it's not holding, moisture down below. You can see it's kind of a bit dirty. I've got the tray all cleaned out so I can put my tree back in the pot. And there's plenty of moisture in the soil, so it's all good. I think that is it for the willow today. Let's do a fly-in, have a final look at the tree. Here is everything I took off the tree today. Weeds, lots of cuttings. Now these would root if I stuck them in water. I could grow more, but I'm just going to keep the one black willow. Here is a look at the tree now. So I think it's interesting. I think it's a tree that will hopefully only get better. And it should have lots of character at the base of the trunk. As it heals and grows stronger, I'm sure it'll all smooth out and it'll look very, very cool, I hope. The sun is shining in the greenhouse now, and it's really warming up in here. The temperature inside now is 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Now this temperature, you can see the sun here, it's very low on the horizon. It only will be like 2 or 3 hours before it sets behind the fence here. So even though it warms up in the greenhouse here for about 3 or maybe 4 hours, the soil in the pots does not heat up. There's enough of a thermal mass in here that they stay cool. So I found that I'm not getting trees breaking dormancy early in the greenhouse here. I do find sometimes that the buds kind of swell up a bit, but they seem to stay dormant until, you know, the real spring comes. We'll see this year. It's been a warm winter, so hopefully I don't have this greenhouse full of leafy trees before they can go outside for spring. It is very beautiful in here in the sunshine. It's a real joy to be in the greenhouse on days like this. You've got sunshine and green trees. Yeah, it's quite nice. I was happy to get my Black Willow all pruned up today. So I think the boxwood forest will be next. The boxwoods will all be combined into one forest in spring when I go to repot them. So that'll be really nice to get them in a proper bonsai pot. Arrange them so it looks really nice, like a miniature forest. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to getting them all pruned up. I think they'll be... Boxwoods can make amazing bonsai, and I think it'll make an amazing forest. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.